everybody, welcome back to the shed. What we're going to be doing today is carrying out a strip and reassembly of a front shock absorber, car shock absorber. The process is pretty much the same across the majority of cars. This is just to give an example. This particular one comes from a 2002 Vauxhall Vectra. So let's get it on the bench and start pulling it apart. Okay, so what we're going to be doing on this is replacing the whole shock absorber assembly, the dust boot and bump stop. The only thing that's going to be retained out of this entire thing is the spring and the whole top mount and bearing assembly. So what we need to do, compress the spring, remove the top mount, and then we can add all the other components in that we're going to be putting together. So here we go. What we need to use are a set of spring compressors. These can be found pretty cheaply from any auto store like Halfords or anything like that. And all they simply do is they're used on the spring just like this, and you simply wind them down. Ooh, simply wind them down until they are compressing the spring and allowing you to take the top mount off without firing it across the room. It really is that easy. So let's crack on. What we'll do, put them roughly opposite each other. These aren't the best tools in the world, and they're a bit of a pain to use, and it takes a bit of effort. You can get pneumatic spring compressors, which are really good. They're quite expensive, but they're a little bit out of the price range of most hobbyists, to be perfectly honest. For the amount of times you would actually do this, these are a lot more, you know, for bang for buck, so to speak. You're probably getting your money's worth out of these ones, maybe not out of the big ones. They're suitable for garages, I guess. Right, all we're going to do now is wind them down, compressing the spring. We'll do a little bit on each side at a time, and we'll just keep going until such times as we've taken the tension off the top mount. Okay, I think we're, yep, right, okay. As you can see, we've got movement there now between the spring and the top mount. So the pressure's off. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use my buzz gun to take the top nut out. As you can see, there's a nut and a Torx. I think that's probably a T40 if I had to make a guess. The center stanchion would have to be held still and then take the nut off. But I'm going to use my buzz gun and hopefully that'll get off in one go. There we go. One top mount off. There's the bearing. Bump stop. And then the spring. And then the knackered gaiter with the big hole in the side. And there is the shock absorber off. Now the this one itself isn't too bad. The other side of the car is leaking terribly and it's all wet. It's due an MOT, so obviously it would fail for that, so that's the reason why we're doing it. Replacing them both anyway because it's good practice. To be perfectly honest, it's a bit of a false economy. Putting a brand new shock absorber on one side of the car and leaving the old one on would adversely affect the handling. I understand obviously it's going to be half the cost. However, if one's gone, the chances are the other one's going to go very, very soon. So whilst you've got all the tools out and the kit, do them both at the same time. And away you go. So what we're going to do, there's the spring. We're going to leave that compressed because it needs to go onto the new shock absorber, and then we need to fit the bearing assembly and everything all together, and then we can release the compressors. Okay, here's the new shock absorber. Comes with a brand new Narlock nut. You can see the little track that the bottom of the shock sits in. So the end of the shock, the end of the spring, sorry, there needs to butt up here when we reassemble. And it looks in a damn sight better condition than the one we just took off. I've compared it with the old one just to make sure that it is the right part, because that's not unheard of. So what I'll do, I'll get rid of all these old bits and get all the new bits in. Okay, new dust boot, bump stop, and then another one for the other side. We'll keep that till we need it. Okay, so on assembly, what we're going to do, we're going to use the new shock absorber, new boot, new bump stop, old spring, and the old bearing, the top mount and bearing assembly. That feels nice anyway. It's nice and quiet. It's in fact, it feels really nice. So we'll put that over there for the moment. Now what we need to do is we need to put the spring in. Fact, actually I need to take the transit clip off because we don't want that anymore, which will allow the stanchion to pop out. Put that on the right way around, like so. Get it roughly seated in the right place. Okay, next thing, fit the bump stop, fit the bump stop, then the boot, okay, and there we go. Now the boot folds neatly over the top of the spring. Then we'll fit the bearing. On top of that. And then the top mount on top of that. And then We can put the nut on. Assuming it's the right size socket for that. Yep. What I'll do, I'll buzz it down. Okay. Right, now the assembly's back together. What I need to do now is release the tension on the springs, on the spring clamps, making sure that the end of the spring stays in its channel just there. The nut is on and down, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to wait until it's on the car and the weight of the car's on it, and then I can tighten it. I can torque it up to spec. So let's get these spring clamps off. Again, releasing them a little bit at a time on each side. There's one off, and this one should be nearly there as well. And there's the other one off. And there we are. That is one rebuilt shock absorber. Let's get these creases out of this boot. But that's all there is to it. All I've got to do now is refit this back to the car and then tighten the top nut up to spec. But obviously before I can do that, I've got the other one to rebuild. Anyhow, hope you found this video useful. Please feel free to give me a like and don't forget to subscribe. Catch you all later, guys. Bye bye.